The 5-1 vote by Santa Fe City Council this week means the city believes New Mexico law allows same-sex marriage. Now, it doesn't carry the force of law, but does it change the debate? Interesting. Here to mull it over with us, attorney and former Democratic Party official Laura Sanchez. We miss her so much. From the Waite Company Public Relations, Christopher Sanchez is back. Host of the new Morning Brew show that airs on cable television here in Albuquerque, our man Larry Aarons is back. And former Democratic Party Chairman John Wertheim, good friend of ours. Good to see you, John, too. Now, I'm going to stay with you on this question. The council urged the state's county clerks to issue marriage licenses to same-sex couples, as we know, which most will not without a court order or something more official. So my question is, does this force the issue? Does it change the debate? Is it moving in the right direction, in your view?
I think yes to all those questions. I think it's moving in the right direction. I think it does affect the debate because the city attorney, Gino Zamora for Santa Fe, who came out with a legal opinion, he was former counsel for Governor Richardson. He's a well-respected lawyer, and his reasoning in his memorandum, if you take a lawyerly look at it, is very strong. I mean, the idea, of course, the basic idea of marriage equality is the notion that a committed, loving couple should have their relationship recognized in all the ways that we view as important, especially, you know, the ability to see their loved one in hospital and those kinds of things. New Mexico's in a unique spot because we're the only state that either hasn't legalized civil unions or equality in marriage or has banned it. And so we're in the middle of not having a statement on the law. And so I think Mr. Zamora is right. The law doesn't say that it has to be between a man and a woman. And we also have an equal rights amendment to the state constitution, which says that you cannot discriminate on the basis of sex. And so legally, I think there's a strong position. But I don't think any of the clerks are going to just do it on their own.
Sure.
It's going to require this lawsuit to go through the process in the courts.
Interesting. Chris, John just made a good point there about the other clerks. We've got some statements coming out now, particularly Bernalillo County Clerk Maggie Toulouse-Oliver. Let me read you a part of her response. While I'm personally in favor of same-sex marriage, she said, my hands are legally tied at the moment. While I appreciate the Santa Fe City Attorney's legal opinion, it is still just an opinion and one that conflicts with another legal opinion on the issue. And she's looking for clarity, it continues, from either the legislature or our Attorney General. So is that necessary?
Well, let me first start by prefacing with I fully support marriage equality, and I always have. But what really punctuated that was in November when I got married, and that was the happiest day of my life. And for us to deny that for same-sex couples is just immoral and wrong. So I think that the Santa Fe City Council did the right thing on this, and for three reasons. I think they demonstrated some leadership, and even though it's largely symbolic, what I do feel is that it tells people, it tells the federal government, look, if you're not going to do something about it, we will. It tells the state government, if you're not going to do something about it, we will. And it also, I think they're spot on with their interpretation of the law too. Nowhere in there does it say marriage is between one man and one woman. And I do hope that county clerks across the state start to follow suit and start issuing same-sex marriage licenses, and that would be showing huge leadership on behalf of our county clerk here in the largest county in the state if she were to continue, if she were to start to do that.
Laura, let me ask you on that point, because I've heard that before, but Chris just said that, you know, it's almost like the arms race versus the Russians years ago. We just keep piling on these things that something's going to crack eventually. Would that actually happen in your view if the Bernalillo County clerk joined in and others followed suit? Would that just automatically solve it at that point?
I don't think it would automatically solve it, but I think it would add more pressure. I think it's
pressure to who?
Well, I think in general to other decision makers, elected officials, for example, the legislature, maybe to finally do something about it. There's obviously a lot of other pressures at play during the legislature that could have been lobbying against this effort, which meant that it fell by the wayside at the legislature. And then pressure on the Attorney General. There's obviously an election coming up. He's running for governor. There's some political issues there that are involved. Interestingly enough, Gino Zamora also ran for Attorney General in the primary against Gary King back when he was running. So, very well-respected opinion, I think, but it is an opinion. And I think, we've seen before where the clerks were put in a position of they had moved forward with starting to issue licenses, and then there was an opinion by the Attorney General at that point. I think it was Patsy Madrid, who said, no, this is not legal. So I think that it's wise to wait for clarity, but I think of it as a tipping point. I mean, we're all, there's a culture change happening, and there's a tipping point that will occur. And having the Santa Fe City Council assert themselves this way to really recognize it, I think makes a big difference, and it will make a big difference if Bernalillo County or the city of Albuquerque does as well.
Larry Aarons, there's always pushback to everything. The world does not work like, oh, we agree and everybody comes rushing in. What's your sense of the friction that's going to erupt here because of
Is this where I mention I have gay friends?
Sure.
No.
Really?
I think it's very interesting at this table, the two more conservative guys are in agreement with our more liberal friends here. I also support the marriage
We had a bell here,
equality.
I'd ring it. This is
Yeah, well, look, it's Americans. When we were kids and we played ball in the yard, and we always say tie goes to the runner. Right. Well, here's what Americans do when they don't know what to do about something. Tie usually goes to freedom or liberty, and in this case, it just seems patently unfair to argue against gay marriage at this point in time.
Let me stop you right there.
Go ahead.
What would happen if Governor Martinez came out and says, I do not agree with this decision? Does that change the debate somehow? Meaning, a certain set of people have to be on board here for others to be able to follow.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Governor Martinez is a practical woman, and she sees the inevitability of it all. And I think that's where it's going. She's not. She may take a stand, but I don't think she's going to, draw a line in the sand on this one.
Interesting. We'll go back to Chris on that. What's your thoughts? I'm going to get to the politics of Gary King here in a second too, but with the governor, would she be well served to come out and be in support of this, do you think?
Well, I think the governor has clearly stated where she stands on the issue, and she, I think, recently even went ahead and buttressed her statement, which is she believes is between one man and one woman, and I disagree with her on that. So I'm not sure that she's going to change her mind on that. But I do think that the more these county clerks come out and start issuing these the licenses, it brings the inevitable.
On the politics of Gary King, our Attorney General, running for governor, as Laura mentioned, does it help him or hurt him to come out with an opinion now, later? What's the best way he can play this?
Well, I mean, one thing I think that the issue needs to be revisited. I mean, he's going to have to consider revisiting the issue. Now, his father, who I work for, who was Governor King, he was a fairly religiously conservative guy, although he was progressive on a lot of issues. And so it's a difficult issue. This religion and marriage equality issue. I think that there is a consensus building that we're seeing at this table, that as a matter of civil liberties and fairness, that there is this growing consensus in favor of marriage equality. But then we have the Council of Bishops, and we have our own Archbishop and two bishops here in New Mexico restating their religious views. And so I think that this is a tough call for Gary himself, knowing his religious upbringing. And also I think it's a tough call for a lot of New Mexicans. And so even though this consensus is building, I think we have to recognize that it's a tough call for him personally. Now, politically, it's very clear. I mean, marriage equality is in the Democratic Party platform and has been for many, many years. And so politically in a Democratic primary, there's not much of really the party has spoken, our Central Committee has spoken years ago on where most Democrats stand, and it's in favor of marriage equality.
Would you agree with that, Laura? His hands are tied a bit by the party platform and some other things? Expectations is what we're talking about.
Sure. I mean, I think that's the expectation of the Democratic Party, of course. But I also think that there is a lot to be gained by coming out with a favorable opinion. I mean, you're basically solidifying a base, which you shouldn't ignore. I mean, I think we've seen in the past a lot of Democratic candidates who take that part for granted, and it's important for him not to in this race, especially after, against somebody like Susana Martinez, who obviously is a very popular governor. But it's still very early, and one would hope, I mean, certainly as good lawyers, we would hope that there's a solid legal foundation and solid legal research done by his office to shore up whatever opinion they come up with.
Is it better now or later? What do you think?
I think it's better now,
Yeah.
to be honest.
Interesting.
That's what I think.
I mean, he really should look at Mr. Samora's opinion, because I think the reasoning is extremely sound. It's hard to critique it. And so I don't see why you couldn't change the letterhead and make it an AG's opinion.
Right, exactly. Same question
And I
for Gary
think
King.
my lawyer friends would know more about this than I do, but there's two court cases going, one in the Supreme Court, and the justices could decide that this fall they could decide not to decide, which would in effect kind of take out DOMA, and it would allow, or it would allow, you guys know more about this than I do, but it would essentially make the discrimination unconstitutional.
Gotcha. Yeah. You know, it's interesting. I could be wrong here, so it's a question. The last polling I saw, it was fairly close, approve or disapprove for gay marriage statewide here. It wasn't not exactly
Yeah,
a slam dunk by any stretch. And so I say again, the politics of it seem trickier than I think we're kind of getting at here at the table, Laura Sanchez, because we've had ideas about constitutional amendments to do this, let the people decide, and that's sort of gone by the wayside here a little bit. And I hear you saying we're going to get there eventually, but is this the best way, or maybe it's just the only way at this point? What do you think on that?
Well, I mean, I think it's one way. I don't necessarily think it's the only way. I think it's important, I mean, for the supporters of this, and I consider myself somebody who supports this issue, to think in multi-pronged strategy
Right.
to how to address this. I think you get as much support from public bodies like the City of Santa Fe Council and others. You get as many clerks as possible to support you. You get as many candidates as possible from both parties to support you. I think it's a multi-level approach to try to make this happen.
See, but now you're describing a strategy.
Sure.
You know what I mean? And how to get this done, Chris. Getting the clerks on board, getting other thought leaders on board, and other people on board to deal with that 45% of the populace who's not on board with this for a variety of reasons. Some John mentioned, some religious, some otherwise. It just seems to me this is going to take a whole lot of education to keep this thing rolling to get to a positive result as opposed to just an opinion.
But just because that 45% is against you doesn't mean you, I mean, that 45% could be the folks who are never going to be with you no matter what.
Sure.
In terms of, I mean, if you're talking about a democratic strategy, and you're looking into a primary where there could be somebody else, you have to, I mean, that 45% is not part of your base anyway.
Sure.
So I think there's different politics at different steps of the
That makes
process.
sense. That makes sense, yeah.
In Gary King's case, I hope he doesn't let his political ambition get in the way, and I hope he does the politically courageous thing to do and support it. So I hope it's not his ambitions for running for governor that are stopping him from coming out and fully supporting it, given, as you mentioned, how many people support it in the
Sure.
state.
Last word to John on this.
Well, I would just say that this is the role that the courts play very well. I mean, we haven't traditionally let the electorate decide that discrimination is okay.
There you go.
And so this is a question of fairness, as I think Larry stated very well. And so it's really a question of we shouldn't have the right to vote for an unequal society. That's where the lines of democracy stop and our constitutional protection of liberties comes in, and that's really the court's role.
Americans don't like unfairness.
Right,
They
right.
don't at its core.
Yeah, I hear you. And the Times support that. Just the
Yeah.
current turn of the Times
Oh,
support
yes.
that. We're back in a minute with another fun one, the Albuquerque mayor's race.